Local businesses struggling to fill roles are turning to city programs for assistance with hiring. Now, here's the catch. These programs are tapping into asylum seekers, migrants, to bolster the economy and pare government spending. It's today's Immunity Moment, and we're joined right now by the author of the story, Ella Ceron, Bloomberg News equality reporter. This was a very fascinating piece because we've heard a lot of chatter amongst economists, including the Fed chair himself, who've actually talked about the role of immigration on the labor market. Your story specifically looks at migrants and asylum seekers and I guess legal ways that they're being folded into the labor market.
Right.
Give me an example of that.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of companies and businesses are looking for folks who have what we call unskilled labor works. That's the cooks, and make no mistake, I think cooks are very skilled workers, but it's very different from the highly skilled tech workers who can achieve H-1B visas. So these folks only really have the asylum process, which then allows them to apply for federal work authorization about 6 months after applying for asylum. And so that's the pathway that a lot of these recent arrivals are starting to take. Cities are then tapping into it as a way to really create solutions for these tough problems of unemployment and tight labor markets.
You mentioned a cook, so like restaurants and food. What other industries are also taking part in this?
We've seen a lot of traffic here with regard to construction. That's always been the case for a lot of these migrants. They've been getting day labor jobs under the table, but now thanks to these federal work authorizations, they can get jobs above table, and that saves them or protects them from wage theft and all these other problems. That also helps employers make sure that the folks that they're hiring have certain certifications to make sure everything's safe.
Are these long-term programs? So, like, what happens? I mean, we're just going to keep these people on the payroll until they become, they become documented.
Well, so the bulk of these people are waiting out their asylum cases, which can take anywhere from a few years to, we've heard that some of them are on backlogs for up to 6 years, just because there have been so many folks coming in and trying to petition for asylum. The hope is that for the 3, 4, 6 years that they're here, they're able to pay their own way, which then alleviates the strain on cities who are providing services.
What about, did you see any sort of political backlash to this? Because we know immigration has been a hot topic in this country for several years, and it's been a huge campaign issue. So when you hear about programs like this, I mean, from a humanistic perspective, it sounds great, but I'm sure, as you know, from a political perspective, there are a lot of people that are going to be uncomfortable with this.
Yeah, from a political perspective, it's definitely a hot button issue. There's a lot of rhetoric flying around trying to demonize these folks, especially from the perspective of taking jobs from American citizens. The reality is that a lot of these business leaders can't find people to fill those jobs. So they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And so they're really just trying to find people who do want to work, who are willing to put in the time and work. And this is one pathway that several cities and states have identified. If employers are open to it, they are free to hire, to interview and then hire these folks. But it's not like they're earmarking these jobs only for migrants.
Gotcha. And so in some of the cities that you've referenced in the stories, like Denver, there was a city in North Dakota, right? Was it Minnesota, a few other places?
So Denver really launched a big program for folks. They're making these work-ready, it's called a work-ready program, and it's a requirement if you want to receive additional services from the city that you have to be enrolled in this program, at least one person from your household. We've seen indications from North Dakota as a state that they might be interested in tapping into this, or at least helping employers who would be interested in connecting with folks. But they're really taking a more intermediary or a conduit approach, especially given that North Dakota is pretty Republican. So they're finding ways to make sure that everybody's happy while still helping solve one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country.